Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into Lesson ID STEMmed STEM AI Unit 01 Lesson Pack 04 Reasoning Worked Practice Video Overview. Or, for short, our exact title today is Reasoning Worked Practice Video Overview. This is geared specifically for Grade 7 Introduction to AI. And honestly, I'm super excited about this one. We're going to zero in on a literally game-changing skill, figuring out how to actually evaluate the answers AI gives us, instead of just blindly trusting them.
So let's kick things off by busting a massive misconception right out of the gate. Is an AI's conclusion automatically correct? You know, it's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking that just because some highly advanced AI system spits out an answer, it absolutely has to be flawless. People tend to treat AI reasoning like it's exactly the same as human reasoning, assuming the machine just sort of gets the big picture. But as we're about to see, taking AI output as the absolute, unquestionable truth without actually checking its evidence, yeah, that's a huge misunderstanding.
Section 1. How AI actually reasons. Uncovering the operational logic.
To really bust this myth, we've got to look at the hard evidence, straight from the OECD. According to them, an AI system isn't magic. It's just a machine-based system. It relies on sensors to gather raw data inputs from the world around it. Then, it uses something called operational logic to interpret all that data for a very specific goal. And finally, it uses actuators to spit out an output, which could be a recommendation, a prediction, or a decision. The whole shebang is a highly structured process that relies 100% on the data it's fed.
This actually breaks down into a really neat three-step sequence. Step 1 is inputs. The sensors are out there collecting available data. Step 2 is operational logic. This is where the system takes that data and applies specific rules or mathematical patterns to it. And finally, step 3 is outputs. The system generates its decision. Basically, the AI takes whatever evidence it has, applies its program pattern, and comes up with a tentative conclusion based solely on that logic. It doesn't have any human awareness or common sense, right? It literally only knows the inputs it gets.
Section 2. Example. AI in the classroom. Let's test the logic.
Okay, let's take those 3 steps and apply them to a super common, everyday classroom scenario just to see how this actually plays out. Imagine we have an AI system and its one very important job is deciding, should recess be indoors today? Let's trace the logic here. The AI has exactly one available input, a reading from a weather app that says it's 60 degrees outside. Its operational logic, the rule it absolutely has to follow, is super simple. If the temperature is above 50 degrees, go outside. So based on just that single data point and that exact rule, what do you think the machine is going to decide?
Well, the AI's tentative conclusion is a very enthusiastic, go outside for recess. I mean, it followed the rule perfectly, right? But hold on a second. When we actually step back and check the evidence, we hit a massive limitation in the AI's reasoning. Sure, it's 60 degrees, but it is also pouring rain. The AI completely missed this because its only input was temperature. It didn't have a sensor for rain. It totally lacked the real-world context that any human just glancing out a window would grasp in a second.
And this exact kind of blind spot is precisely why the NIST AI Risk Management Framework puts so much emphasis on checking for limitations. The National Institute of Standards and Technology actually warns us about the built-in risks and uncertainties of these systems. They strongly highlight how absolutely vital human review is. Because AI systems can easily miss information or just lack broader context, we, the humans, have to step in and review their conclusions before we accept them or act on them, especially when a missing input means accidentally sending a bunch of 7th graders out into a literal rainstorm.
Section 3. Your turn to check. Practice spotting the limitations.
All right, now it's your turn to apply what we've been talking about. Let's look at a new scenario. Say an AI is grading a math quiz, but it's programmed to grade based only on the final answers the students provide. Now imagine a student gets the right answer, but they don't show any of their work. What is the AI's conclusion going to be, and more importantly, what is missing from its reasoning? I actually want you to pause this explainer for a second. Think about this. Try to identify the available evidence, figure out what the AI's conclusion would be based on its rules, and then name at least one limitation or reason why a human definitely needs to double-check this.
Okay, let's see how you did. If you trace the logic, you probably realize the input here is strictly the final answer written down. And since that answer is correct, the AI's tentative conclusion is to give the student a 100% perfect score. But here is the critical missing limitation.
The AI has literally no way to verify if the student actually understands the math process. I mean, they might have just guessed, or maybe even copied the answer from a friend. The AI is completely blind to the process because its only input is that final number. And that exact uncertainty is why human checking, like a teacher actually looking over the student's scratch paper, is so absolutely crucial.
Section 4. The human check. Always trace the inputs.
Let's wrap things up by locking in our main takeaway on how we should oversee AI reasoning. Pulling from both the NIST framework's approach to risk and the OECD's definition of operational logic, we arrive at this absolute core principle. A conclusion should be traced to its inputs and evidence, checked against the task, and reviewed for limitations rather than accepted automatically. That right there is essentially your job description when you use AI. You've got to trace the conclusion back to the exact data it used and proactively hunt for whatever it might have missed.
So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about. The next time an AI gives you an answer, are you just going to accept it automatically as some flawless fact? Or will you step up to the plate as the human reviewer and actually investigate its evidence? Remember, an AI is just giving you a tentative conclusion based on limited sensors and some mathematical logic. The human judgment part, that is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep asking those great questions and keep thinking critically.